All right, all right. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Apparently, I am not allowed to go live on LinkedIn. Okay, well, there we go. All right, nothing like a little go live and get some technical stuff. Oh, goodness. Hey, how are you? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Oh, my goodness. All right, so let's see. Okay, hang on. We are good. All right, hi. Let's see. This is an unusual one. Normally, I do my Alpha Leadership live shows on Tuesdays, but in celebration of Patriot Day, it's not really a celebration, but in honor of Patriot Day, I wanted to share my story. So this is a little bit different from the normal routine, but it seemed really pertinent to today, to honor and celebrate not only everything that's happened over the last 19 years since 9/11 happened, but also the lessons that I've learned and how those have impacted my life and my leadership. So we are in all the places today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. I had to get all of this stuff up. Let's see here. Got all the technicals because, those are fun. So awesome. Get a little situated here. Since, little tech issues there at the beginning, love to throw you for a loop. Hey, Lauren, how's it going? All right, so like I said, we are in all the places today. Hey, Princess. So comment where you are joining from today. Because we're in so many locations, I might not necessarily see everyone's comments as we're going through. So if I happen to miss your stuff as we're live, any of your comments or questions, don't worry, I will go back and answer all of those things, and respond to all of you. If you're catching the replay, be sure to say hashtag replay. Man, I am just extra disheveled this morning. I'm going to totally own it that today, I will give you that warning. Today is definitely going to be super vulnerable in my share. I'm certain it'll be emotional. So I'd say more likely than not, that's a bit of what's got me off my game and a smidge discombobulated today. But it's all good. It's like hashtag real life, right? That's what it's all about. So all good. Hey, Lisa Sheridan, how's it going? Ooh, Red Lodge, Montana. Sweet. Super cool. Okay, well, if you are new to me or have not seen me in a while, let me introduce myself. I am Stacy Raske, best-selling author, speaker, Iraq War veteran, badass biker chick, and most importantly, soulful success coach, helping ambitious women, founders, and CEOs elevate their impact and legacy by unleashing their full potential, power, and purpose for greater visibility, authenticity, and influential leadership. What? Yes. So I'm all about helping the alpha women shift from intimidating to influential. Yeah, I love, love, love. All right. So before we get into today's stuff, if you are an ambitious female founder, CEO, thought leader, or change maker, I'd like to invite you to my Facebook community, the Divine Femme Alpha, where I do lots of exclusive trainings and content on influential leadership. Like I said, I don't have my full, alpha leadership live show stuff going on because, today's a little different. So, although I would like to take a moment before we get into all of today's content and story, all that stuff, I would like to just take a moment of silence for those who've lost their lives not only on 9/11, but after as well, from injury, illness, suicide, from the wounds of that day. So join me in a moment of silence. Probably not long enough, but that's okay. And it gave me a moment to get regrounded, right? Alrighty. So, like I said, today is all about not only how the lessons I've learned from 9/11 and my experiences after 9/11, how those have changed and influenced and impacted my life and my leadership. I'm going to share some of those really powerful lessons for you. And then how I bring those into my life and my leadership today. Because, that's a big part of it, is not just learning the lessons or experiencing these big things, but it's like being okay with allowing these big experiences in our lives to affect us. When we are changed at such a deep level, literally at the cellular and the soul level, being able to embody and incorporate what we learn from those experiences is so, so, so important, because we are not the same after something like that. So I would love to hear from you. Where were you on 9/11? Where were you when that happened? Because, every generation has their thing. We've got, Pearl Harbor. Everybody remembers where they were on that day. The JFK, all of these different tragedies in history, obviously each one totally different, but still affecting everyone. So where were you on that day? On 9/11, 2001, I was actually in Salt Lake City, Utah, home on leave, because actually I had just finished up basic training in AIT and actually the additional biowarfare detection school. So I was actually did almost a year of school after having joined the Army in February of 2001. Like, I was already in. And so finished up school, was getting ready to go to my first duty station, and was home on leave in Salt Lake City, Utah, and woke up that morning to the alarm clock with all the information. So yeah, where were you on 9/11? So needless to say, 2 days later, I went to my first duty station down in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Not long thereafter, our unit, because we were the Army's only active duty biological warfare detection unit, we deployed to the Pentagon because, if you recall, not long after 9/11, anthrax was sent to the Pentagon. So we had to go for cleanup and testing. So going to the Pentagon was actually my very, very, very first deployment, which was really interesting because it was a stateside deployment during a time of war, which basically does not happen. So with that, we had access to everywhere in the Pentagon. So we had firsthand access to the area where all the devastation was, all the rubble, all the cleanup, and then even other places where a lot of stuff was being staged for cleanup, for sorting, clearing the rubble, all of that. And so it was really interesting to be there firsthand. I mean, see it, touch it, smell it, be a part of that very traumatic experience. I can only imagine. I mean, I was not there the day it happened. I can't even imagine for the people who were there, or even at the World Trade Center on the day that it happened. I do, however, have my piece of the Pentagon. So, and that piece came out right from the crash site. It was just, again, that's one of those moments in life and in history. And I will say the biggest lessons I learned during that time was, which at that time I was far from being a leader. I was 22 years old. Like, I mean, I'm a kid. And seeing and experiencing what we did during that time really helped me to grow up quickly in the areas that I was still lacking some maturity, because it shifts your perspective on what's truly important in life. Truly important. And, seeing a lot of that, again, the trauma and the devastation, it's like, wow, it was my first opportunity to really understand how tomorrow, time, all of those things are just not a guarantee. And I think that was one of the big things where it was like, oh, and that opportunity to grow up, to be like, wow, what am I waiting for in my life? Even though I was already doing a lot, that's one of those perspective pieces on value and what's important. But during those few months that we were there, not everything was bad. That first deployment was an opportunity for the man who would later become my husband, for us to continue to develop and nurture our friendship and our relationship, and what eventually grew into us becoming a couple later. So, it really, that was a positive thing that came out of that experience. A really positive thing that came out of that experience. That here it is, almost 20 years later, that he and I are still together. So, that's a really beautiful thing that came out of something that is so tragic and devastating on many, many, many levels. Lauren was flying, let's see here, flying from JFK to Orlando, got home, and then, wow, your dad called you to see because you just left New York. Wow. Oh my goodness, wrote an article. It's the only chiropractor. What? That is amazing. Oh, that is so cool. Your dad volunteered to be a chiropractor serving first responders. That is so powerful. So powerful. So fast forward from the Pentagon. And again, this first taste of perspective, and definitely a little sense of that powerlessness. But at least I had an opportunity to do something, doing some anthrax cleanup, doing testing to prevent any further chemical or biological attack during, at least in that area. So fast forward just over a year, and I deployed to Kuwait because we were getting ready to invade Iraq at the beginning of 2003. And we ended up being the first chemical unit in Iraq when we invaded. We were on the front lines. And again, there's lots of experiences during my deployment that put into perspective, like, what is important in life. There were more than a few times that I did not think I would survive the situation. Whether we were under attack, whether it was just a lot of unknown variables, there's a lot of stuff. But the big story with regard to leadership that comes out of my time in Iraq was one of our platoons actually got lost in country, lost in Iraq. And it was a really dangerous rescue mission. And so they asked for volunteers. Some of you may remember I shared a little bit about this in my Courage versus Bravery video, if you're in my Divine Femme Alpha community. And they asked for volunteers. And what was interesting was, like, immediately I volunteered. Like, I just did not think twice about it. And honestly, nobody else stepped up. They ended up only having a total of 4 people who volunteered to go on this rescue mission to go find this platoon from our company. And what was interesting is that I did it from this really authentic place. I was not trying to prove anything when I volunteered, which is important because I know that used to be a big motivator for me, and I've seen it play out in my life and my business a few different times, right? Being that former high achiever, a lot of times we are motivated by this need to prove something, whether it's to ourselves, but oftentimes to other people, or to, like, being in the military, right? If you're a woman, sometimes you're trying to be one of the guys trying to fit in because it's just hard to fit in. And my volunteering came from this completely aligned, authentic place. It was not about proving anything. It was just stepping up because it was totally the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. Fully, from this place of like strength and courage. And like I said, it was just totally aligned. So here are the big lessons. Let me see here. There's 4 big lessons that I gained from all of these different experiences that I had. Number 1, and this one is really, really, really important. Leading is not about control. And this is huge because so many of the women in my world, my clients, even myself, this recovering control freak, the control issues are such a barrier to truly being the authentic, influential leader you desire to be. And leadership and leading in general is not about being in control. It's not about control. It's actually about alignment and action. Basically, how can I be my best in order to do my best? That's it. And that was that place of me volunteering, right? It wasn't about feeling out of control. It wasn't about feeling powerless or, any of those things where that can trigger us to need to take control. That's not at all the dynamics that was playing out. It was simply focusing on what I actually had control over, which was me. How am I in alignment? What do I need to do to be my best in order to take the right actions, right? Which I have control over to do my best. And so if you want more on understanding the alignment and the action of really epic leadership, I'll share a link to the interview that I did for Authority Magazine on I think it was the 5 lessons that I learned from the military that taught me how to survive and thrive during a time of crisis. I think that would be really poignant about that. So really, it's just about that alignment and action. So number 2. And actually, before we get to number 2, throw in the comments, write control if you're like, oh gosh, here she is calling me out, right, about the control issues. If you still are working on some of the control issues, the perfection, the procrastination, expectation, judgment, any of those fun little things, everybody's got some control issues to a certain degree. But if you see that those control issues are still, that barrier to being that amazing, epic, influential leader that you're called to be, right? It is. I mean, control is the biggest wall that we have that blocks us from everything we desire. It's true. I mean, that's a lot of what I talk about in my community too. Oh, yes, Andrea, Sheridan, Lisa. Yes, absolutely. All right, number 2, authentic and influential leadership comes from within. It is nothing external, because just because we're in a position of power, basically we're in a position of being in charge, whether you're given a leadership position or you own a business. So of course you just put yourself in charge. But just because people are in charge, it does not mean they are a leader. They're completely separate. Now, some people in charge are also leaders, but just because you're in charge doesn't make you a leader. So are you being the leader that your business, your brand, your message, your mission need you to be? Or are you just saying you are because you're in that position, right? Again, that's that difference between external conditions versus internal conditions. And the leadership comes from within. And so I think that's a good one, to just kind of identify, whoa, Stacy, you just really kind of called me out on that one. If you're like, I've been saying I'm a leader, because I own my business. But really, I'm just the person in charge. And if you've been following me for a while, you know every truth I speak to you comes from personal experience. I mean, that was me for a long time. I was just the person in charge making a decision. And I mean, if you are ready to be like, okay, I've just been in charge, just, throw that in the comments, like, oh, I've been in charge. Or you might be like, yep, working on being that leader, or I know I'm leading my business and my clients, wherever you are in that. Again, no judgment. Having awareness and ownership is that foundation for transformation. So wherever you are at. Yes, Sheridan, I am a leader. Yes. Yes, sister. So good. Okay. Number three. Number three. The biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons as well that I learned is that you must have balanced masculine and feminine energy. Super important. Super, super, super important. Because the best leadership qualities that reflecting back on that moment where I volunteered, the best leadership qualities actually came from my feminine energy, from my empowered feminine energy, the trust, the strength, my empathy, being grounded and being receptive. That's all feminine energy, empowered feminine energy. In that moment that I volunteered, I trusted myself and I trusted my team. I had the strength and the empathy to not make my decision about myself or my fear. It was about the people I was helping to rescue. So I see this a lot, especially with entrepreneurs. We get stuck in our trap of our inner critic and any of the fear, especially the fear of success. And we're making it about us rather than saying, wow, this is not about me. Showing up, being visible, being the leader, creating the impact is not about me. It's about the lives that'll be changed, the impact I will make, the transformations, the value to everyone else, right? So it was not making it about myself. And all of that beautiful feminine energy was complemented by this great empowered masculine energy, which was the confidence, the responsibility, being protective and logical, right? I mean, to volunteer, to put your life on the line, to rescue others is a choice that comes from balance. It is a decision that comes from balance. So balancing both sides, the masculine and the feminine, equals being highly, highly supportive. Highly supportive. And throw in the comments if you need to balance, you need more balance of the masculine and feminine. A lot of us are really great at the action, the hard work and the hustle, but we're not always so great at the trust, the allowing, the receiving, right? You're like, oh, need to work on my balance. Throw that in the comments. And number 4, biggest lesson, number 4, and this was so huge. And I didn't get this till I came out the other side of my transformation journey, because some of you know, I had my rock bottom moment just a smidge over 5 years ago. Like, it's not been that long in the scheme of things. It's not been that long. And leadership is about having a tribe or community of people at all levels, having mentors, having peers, and having people to lead. Huge. My decline after getting out of the Army actually was impacted by no longer having a tribe of like-minded people, no longer having a community. And that is a big part of why so many veterans end up committing suicide. They are lacking community, lacking a tribe. And regardless of suicide, why so many veterans struggle with addiction and trauma recovery and all the things. They went from having this intense community and tribe of support, and then they don't overnight. And that affected me immensely. It really did. So over the past year, especially, like, even though I've been in business, had my business, basically the 5 years I've been on this recovery journey, rebuilding myself, I started building a business. So over this last year, it was a lot of tapping into that beautiful balance of that divine alpha energy, right? That leadership energy. And that's allowed me to be an authentic and influential leader in my business with my message, my mission, and who my clients need me to be. And unleashing my divine feminine alpha more, right? To balance out the masculine hustle or that need to control, right? Balance out the masculine energy, because it is about balance. Everything's about balance. And over this last year, especially, even though it's been a 5-year journey, healing the next level of those worthiness wounds, releasing the programming that fueled my need to control, has allowed me instead to focus on the alignment and the action, right, of being an influential leader, the stuff that is within my control. And the cool thing is that has allowed me to completely transform my marriage, my health, my business, allowing far more joy and freedom and peace and the impact and the success that I've always desired. And then curating an amazing community of empowered, ambitious, epic people, right? So it's all about leading. Being that amazing, influential leader is about leading by example. So really taking all 4 of those things and incorporating it into my life, like living it every day. Consciously choosing who I want to be in my life, in my business, to be that authentic, influential, aligned leader. And so it's all about that inner work, the internal needle movers, as I like to say, right? To shift how you show up for that next level of impact and influence. So now I have a little bit of time for Q&A and just kind of go through all of the questions. Oh, Andrea, I never feel worthy to make money. As soon as I get a good idea, I sabotage myself. Oh, the anxiety is out of control. And actually what's interesting is anxiety is exactly that, right? It's one of those symptoms of feeling out of control. It's triggering when we're having experiences that trigger our internal safety alarm, which is basically entrepreneurship. Anytime you're stepping outside that comfort zone or that little bubble, a safety bubble, right? It triggers that alarm that fuels the sabotage. So, everyone's trigger is different, but that would be the anxiety. So the anxiety is when we're forward focused. So it's the what ifs and the worries and what happens if I do it. It's the forward thinking or forward focus of things outside of our control. And so the more you focus every day on the things that are within your control, long before you do any money-making activities or any business activities, making sure the internal climate is in balance first. And that was the biggest shift, right? For stepping into this influential leadership, 80 to 90% of what I do every day to support my business is about making sure what's going on in here is good. It's focusing on the self-care, the balance, the internal balance, the routines, the nurture, all the things internally first, then coming into my business. Like, that is the only thing that allowed my business to massively scale. It wasn't all the strategies. It wasn't all the stuff. Granted, they're important. It's not an either or. We need both. But at least 80% of your business is a mind game. It's, healing the soul, being in balance internally. And for me, I found it's actually more like 90%. It's only about 10%, 5 to 10% of each day is strategy or any of that stuff. It's more self-management skills, habits, mindset, belief shifting, embodiment, empowerment, self-management, all of that stuff. So let's see. Oh, yes, I always have a plan and need to know. Yes. But being mindful, there's a lot of things within the plan that we can get hung up on, this focusing on the things that are actually outside of our control, like outcomes. And sometimes we can go down that perfectionist rabbit hole of being overly invested in the desired result or the outcome. So we end up trying to control everything. And some of that stuff's not our job, and we end up taking on too much responsibility that way and end up burned out. So it's an interesting balance, So, all right. Well, I am excited to hear from you. What has been the most insightful or empowering lesson that I shared with today's storytelling? It's definitely been a little different, always a little different when I share the deep behind the scenes Stacy stuff. So yeah, what was of the 4, hey James, how's it going? Of those 4 steps or 4 big lessons, what were the top, or what was the top or the biggest insight for you? Okay. So I am going to wrap up. I will revisit for those of you who are not yet members of my amazing Facebook community. If you are an ambitious woman, founder, CEO, thought leader, change maker, absolutely. I will put the link down below for the Divine Femme Alpha community, where I share exclusive trainings and content every week. Such a great, amazing place to hang out. And for everyone else, thank you so much for joining me. And please keep the questions and comments coming in. I will be happy to respond. If there's anything else you want to know, or you have any questions on how any of the things I shared today apply to you, and I'll definitely get the link as well to the article in Authority Magazine, because that's a really juicy one and pertinent to today as well. And yeah, enjoy your weekend. And remember, as always, you are enough.